Hello. Today we are going to delve into the economy. You see these headlines, you see financial doom or the easiest time to make money. What is it? Are we cooked? Well, hopefully I can answer some of those questions today. I'm just going to give a quick, concise outline of how people feel about the economy, how companies are doing, big and small, and just an overall overview of the economy as it currently is, so that hopefully you guys can have a slightly better understanding of how it is. Now, before I get into the actual economy itself, I wanted to talk about gender discrepancy because someone had a question about it. And they were asking, should men still be expected to pay the bills, be the breadwinner, even in today's economy? Now, here's what I'll say about this. This will be a quick just minute, so you can skip ahead if you want. Traditions are still prevalent in today's society. That is true. But overall, women have been working more and more over the years. In the last 10 years, it's kind of been in a stagnant. About 68% of men work and about 57% of women work. But overall, in age groups of like 25 to 54, it's 78% of women, 89% of men. So it's a lot of women are working, a lot of men are working. Now, I do think there is still an expectation for men to pay the bills, usually at like the start of a relationship, just in a simple straight relationship. Um, but that's just usually from tradition and things like that. And even now, I mean, I know people that don't follow this. It's not really, I don't think, as prevalent as some people think. Now locally it might be, but on a global scale, this trend has been slowly going down over time and will probably eventually fade away. So it's just, I think that women are just beginning to work more, not only because they want to, but because they have to, because of lower wages. Because obviously, you know, they want to work too. But a lot of the times it's not because they want to work, it's because they have to work because, the husband or the father or whatever the other opposite of the relationship is, they're not making enough money just because the economy's not doing good. So that's not really that's a little different than them wanting to work because that's more of a economy indicator that things aren't going as well. But there hasn't been a lot of proof showing that there's been more women working recently. It seems to be about the same. It kind of has been for the past 10 years or so. So it's kind of hard to get anything, extrapolate anything from that data. But just wanted to touch on that real quick because someone had a question about it. But I think there is still some tradition, but it's slowly a fading thing that's going away over time. And overall, I wouldn't say it's expected anymore on a global scale, or at least within America on a international scale. That's the word I'm looking for. Yes, that's the word I'm looking for. I got it. All right, so let's just get into the economy in general. How are people feeling about it? Now, I found some graphs. I did find a lot of conflicting graphs on how Gen Z felt about the economy, but this seems to be the most common consensus, the most accurate results that I could find. 87% of Gen Z are very or moderately worried about the US economy. That's a lot. That is a lot. Now, I did try to find how young generations in the past have felt about the economy, if they were just as worried. Now, it seems to be around 60%. So basically, about where baby boomers are now, which would make sense. So I was looking at when baby boomers were in their Gen Z era, you know what I mean? How they felt about it. And they were more confident than we are. So I think there is something showing that. But this could also be a major result of social media. Social media loves to push pessimistic outcomes or extremely optimistic. It's one or the other a lot of the times. It's an extreme, and it's hard to tell. This is why it's hard to tell. Is because you're seeing these things. It's either the fastest growing economy ever, or we're going to be dead in 5 years. You know what I mean? It's very frustrating because there's no clear consensus. It seems like, but there kind of is. It's just you got to look into the stats more, and you'll be able to find how the economy is actually doing. You're not going to be able to make a great prediction, but you could evaluate it in a much better way than most media companies do. So Gen Z rate, the U.S. job market is bad, 69%. That's also a lot. These are both kind of worrying numbers. These are the people that are going into jobs right now. These are the people that are going to college. I will say, I mean, I'm in this generation. I know a lot of people in this generation. I will say, especially in college, college is it seems to be cooked to me. I mean, I I really don't know that many people that are getting anything out of college, whether that be jobs, whether that be actual education, whether that be anything. I mean, it just seems to me that they're losing money. Not all of them, but seeming to be a larger and larger majority as the years go on, that they're just spending more money on college as they keep increasing. It's harder to find jobs out of college, and then they're not actually learning anything because they're cheating with AI. So it seems to be a fundamental problem that we need to fix specifically with college, but I just wanted to touch on that real quick. Now, the gap between Gen Z and boomers isn't quite as wide as a lot of people will make you believe. Still very wide. I wouldn't dig too deep into this. It's pretty significant still. I saw some things that are like, oh, actually, Gen Z is just as rich as baby. No, that's not true. Simply, boomers just have a bigger population. I think that's one of the big things. Boomers have a bigger population. They've been in the government for much longer, so they make laws to benefit them over time. I mean, it makes sense. When you have more people in an age group, they get into government, they're going to start seeing more benefits than the other generations. Is it fair? That's a whole other question that I'm not going to get into right now because it's just about the economy. But um, young generations almost always struggle. This is true, but there seems to be a lot more underlying problems with this, as mentioned earlier, with college, with AI, and things like that. I don't want to be all doomer though about this because I feel like that's just a bad attitude to have because that's not how things will change. Okay. You don't need to be unrealistically optimist. Look, things can get bad. That is true, but that doesn't mean that they can't get better. Okay. Um, Now, another thing I wanted to touch on was rising credit spending. People are just spending more money overall, even though, yes, it is true that the housing market has risen way faster than wages have. That doesn't mean that Americans still aren't spending more and more every year. I will say, though, people seem to have gotten used to a very specific lifestyle of living, right? In a certain economic period, let's just say, for example, 10 years ago, right? They got used to spending, a certain amount of money every year. And then as the economy changes, they don't shift. They find ways around it. You know what I mean? They start selling things. They start buying stocks to see if they could, make that money up over time. They try to fill the gap in any way they can. And that's why you see these small indicators. Like I know Atriot did a video on pawn shops, on how that's been increasing, how that's an indicator. I don't think that's quite as big as he stated, but that's besides the point. I do think it's still an indicator. He's way smarter than me on this stuff, so I really shouldn't be criticizing him too heavily there. But yes, these are serious problems, and I don't think it is the exact same as other younger generations in the past. I don't think that's fair to say, and I think that's kind of ignorant because you're not really looking at these underlying issues, and it just seems like you're ignoring them and just not even recognizing their existence. Now, specifically with the stock market, I think this is where a lot of people get confused because they don't know. A lot of the average person doesn't know anything about the stock market, which fair enough. Why would you? It's boring as shit for most people. I get it. It's nerd shit. Now, here's what's happening in the stock market as a super quick consensus. The top 7 companies, right? They're called the Mag 7, the Magnificent 7, okay? These companies are like Facebook, Nvidia, Apple, Meta, right? These companies basically carry so much of the capital of the market that it's really not fair to look at the stock market and go, it's going up right now. Now, it is fair to do that, but it's not. You got to look deeper into it because you got to see how it's weighted. You know what I mean? So, smaller local areas are hurting overall, banking wise, business wise. These small businesses are hurting not only because of these huge companies, but because of the recent tariffs I know they were taken away, but when they were imposed, that was a big shock to a lot of businesses because they had to import goods. Even small businesses import a lot of goods, and that heavily affects how they're able to create revenue and create profit. They had to raise prices, and it's a whole big mess. And now there's got to be a refund. I don't even know how that's going to work, but whatever. Here's the big thing, though. I've heard people say that these top 7 companies are similar to the dot-com bubble. I don't think this is fair at all. These companies are making a lot of money. This is true. They're making a lot of money. The cash flow is real, baby. The cash flow is real. Here's where I have an issue, though. They are spending so much money on AI as well. But if this bet on AI doesn't pay out in the way that they're expecting it to, it could be really rough because everything's so invested in those. The cash flow is real, like I've said, but they are still putting so much development into it. It seems to me like, I don't want to say some of them are overconfident in this AI thing. I'm just going to throw this out there. Because why not? I think Apple is doing the right thing by not stepping into the AI game right now. I'm saying that right now. Look, you're going to look back in 10 years and they're going to be, they're going to be worth $0 and people are going to look at me like an idiot, but whatever. I do kind of think that. I do. I think it's smart what they're doing. I don't think you want to jump into this right now. I understand that building that infrastructure is important with AI and getting those data centers built and things like that. It just seems to me a little premeditative. But then again, it's all speculation. But it's different than the dot-com bubble because they're producing revenue. The dot-com bubble, many companies didn't even see revenue ever. To be honest with you, they kind of just, we'll get it down the line. We'll figure out the revenue. They never really did. But yeah, so, and another quick thing that also increased spending was COVID. COVID was a big thing. Restaurants increased. That's a big increase in spending that you probably don't even think about because, let's go into a restaurant, an extra $20 or whatever. Well, that stuff really adds up over time. It compounds. When people start going to restaurants more, they start going twice a week instead of once a week. That does end up being a big difference in the economy. And those little changes, these little changes all add up into how people really feel about it. So it seems hard to see what's actually going on. But I think once you break it down and realize that the stock market is weighted in that way, there are still obviously small businesses that are doing well and whatever, but it is definitely weighted. I think that's very hard to deny the fact because those top 7 companies, just look up look at market cap for the stock market and you'll see, I'm pretty sure, at least in the top 10, you'll see all 7 of those companies. And all of them, except for really Apple, are involved in AI in some way. So it's just interesting. I think we should really, for the final consensus is, I think the most important thing is we should watch out for monopolies. We cannot let these 7 companies get even, I don't want to say even bigger because, they're almost certainly going to get bigger, but we just can't let them reach a level, and some argue that companies like Google already have, where they just have that huge piece of the pie of the market share. Well, I think Google's almost undeniably a monopoly, but if all 7 of those companies start to become more and more monopolistic, that's where my real concern is. I think the best course of action, and just honestly the safest overall, just a safe practice in general throughout history, is to place anti-monopolistic laws against these companies so that they're not able to do that, so that we can create more competition, so that these top 7 companies don't keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and more bloated and worse at producing products, because with less competition, they're not gonna, there's no reason to strive for better products when they could just sit at the top. You know what I mean? So it's very interesting stuff. Well, maybe to some, but I just wanted to give a quick consensus on that because I do feel a very mixed opinion on the economy overall. Some people are just like, nah, man, it's all just bullshit. And some people are like, oh no, it's all going to be over. I don't think it's either of those. If you ever see 2 extremes on social media, usually it's never either of them. You got to look deeper into it. I know you guys have heard this a million times, but yeah, that's just a common takeaway overall, not even just to do with the economy. So yeah, live a great life. Appreciate you guys watching. Subscribe if you want to. Like the video. Drop a comment. Let me know what you guys think. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. Please disagree with me, but please be respectful about it. I'm really liking where this is going. We got 5 subscribers, baby. Let's keep it going. I'm about 470 away. No, hold on. I'm 540 away from my main channel, which you guys don't even know about, but I do have another channel. This is kind of a side project, but now it's becoming my main project. Hey, you guys. Sorry for the ramble. See ya.